Three people were shot and killed in Chicago this past Memorial Day weekend. While any loss of life through gun violence is a tragedy, by historical standards, the number of deaths recorded marked a 10-year low. Last year, 10 people were shot and killed over the holiday weekend. Chicago's top cop credits the drop in violence, at least in part, to greater community outreach and the department's collaboration with violence interrupters. Here's a little of what Police Superintendent David Brown said this morning.
They have stepped up. They really have stepped into the gap, particularly regarding some of our neighborhoods that are increasingly more violent than others. They're there till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning with our Chicago police officers, intervening in ways that Chicago police officers can't.
So joining us now are two people who are engaged in that critically important work and at times dangerous in work to interrupt the violence that plagues our city. Eddie Bocanegra, Senior Director of Heartland Alliance's Ready Chicago program, and Vaughn Bryant, Executive Director of Metropolitan Peace Initiatives in Chicago and Communities Partnering for Peace. Welcome both of you back to Chicago tonight. Eddie Bocanegra, let's start with you, please. To what would you attribute this weekend's reduction in violence?
I think one of the core elements that took place this week is that you had a lot of work that was done previously in the last several months that's built up to what happened this past weekend. Strong efforts from community agencies that are partnering with the police, but also others who are in a very similar space, continuing to be creative and innovative in the way they're going about engaging the community. And I think that's been one of the contributing factors to seeing the kind of reduction of violence that we saw this past weekend.
Do you think this, is this relatively low number? Do you think it's a coincidence? Or could some of the city's anti-violence strategies be working?
Well, I'm a kind of a skeptic around that one, to be quite honest with you. I think that overall, there's been some huge efforts from a lot of the community agencies represented here through CP4P and Ready Chicago and others that I would say they've been putting more work into the streets, particularly as it relates to even COVID, right? Having to deal with that issue. But at the end of the day, I would say that there's a number of different factors that did help reduce gun violence yesterday. But my biggest question is, we still have historical highs this past several months in comparison to last year and the year before that. So I'm hoping in good faith that a lot of the efforts that took place this past weekend is related to those efforts. However, if we want to continue to really prove that what happened this weekend was effective and part of a larger strategy, we need to continue to demonstrate those impacts in the weeks to come. And that also means the mayor herself and her strategies that I would say, need to be reassessed, on a regular basis.
And Vaughn Bryant, as we just heard, Superintendent David Brown had praise for the role of violence interrupters and other outreach workers for this weekend's reduction. Would you say violence interrupters and CPD officers have a good working relationship?
I would say we have a professional understanding. The reality is outreach workers can't really associate themselves with police officers in terms of the work because they can't be credible for the work they do. With necessarily a relationship, but I think that we're at a historic point of understanding and acceptance of the role of outreach workers. I think the police trust the training that they're getting and the professional standards that they're adhering to today in a way that they didn't yesteryear. So from that perspective, I do think there's a mutual respect, and we're able to complement each other as we're out there doing our work.
Eddie, talk a little bit about the violence of being, the dangers of being a violence interrupter and how gangs respond when organizations like yours are out doing the work that you do.
Well, kind of a two-way that I'll answer that question. I'm sure Vaughn could add to this. One, how I started my career was doing violence interruption work back in the west side of Chicago, predominantly in Little Village. And leveraging your networks, leveraging relationships is something that gets overlooked by many people, but it's one of the biggest investments that someone like who's doing street outreach, who's doing intervention work, really relies on. That intel that you're gathering from relationships that you're building, trying to get ahead of some of the retaliations or plotting in many cases. So that's really critical. And too often, men do put themselves and women put themselves in harm's way. As a matter of fact, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, two of our staff in Red Chicago through one of our partners at INVC in the Austin community, broad daylight, they're engaging a young man to make sure they come back into the program. And as they're doing that, somebody cuts out of the gangway and shoots into the crowd. About 3 or 4 shots were fired into the car. Fortunately, nobody was hit, but that's one example of many examples that I'll share that too often our frontline staff are challenged with those situations. I would also say, one of the things that we're doing also very differently is that we need to continue to not only build relationships, but to engage them and provide something tangible. In many cases, it's through employment. In other cases, is to address some of the behaviors that is leading to these issues, such as individual mental health or cognitive behavior therapy, are just some examples of how the field in itself has definitely evolved.
Now, Vaughn, we know that CPD canceled days off. They put officers on 12-hour shifts over the course of the weekend. What's the reaction from the community to that increased police presence for a community that already believes itself to be over-policed?
Well, I think there's sort of a double-edged sword or a little bit of ambivalence in terms of we want to be policed. We want to be policed in a humane way. And I think we want our police officers to take care of themselves, and we want the institution to make sure that they're healthy, both physically and mentally, to go out and do the job that they do. So of course, we say we're over-policed, but I just think we really want healthy policing.
And Vaughn, before we run out of time, we know that Superintendent Brown today talked about the importance of a whole government approach. Do you feel like you're seeing that out of this mayoral administration and also the police department to the extent that it can?
Yeah, I mean, we've done South Side and West Side coordination meetings for the last 2 or 3 years. And so this has been building for us to get to this point of coordination. I think we would have done this last year had COVID not hit, because the city has invested in outreach in a way that they hadn't historically. So with the investment and the more greater coordination, I think we're better off today than we were yesteryear.
And before we run out of time again, Vaughn, we had a dreadful summer in 2020. How do you feel as we head into the start of 2021, the summer? I'm
cautiously optimistic. In order to do this work, I have to have faith that if we keep at it and we sustain it, we're going to eventually overcome it. I understand the history and I understand the city we live in, and people are not robots. So people are unpredictable and they can do whatever. But I believe in people. I believe in our institutions, especially the gains we've made in terms of creating an infrastructure to stop violence, and we just have to keep it going.
Okay, both of you stay safe. Again, our thanks to Eddie Bocanegra and Vaughn Bryant for joining us.
Thank you.